begin.
The recording has started.
All right, let's get ready to open up with a prayer. All brothers remove their head coverings. All sisters pray with their heads covered. We face the east towards Jerusalem, where our temple was and where our temple in Hamashiach shall return. Abba Father, Yahweh, Elohim, the Allah of Abraham, Yashak, and Yaakov. Covenant Father Elohim of Yashra'al, we thank you, Yah, so much for your mercy, Yah, for bringing us into a new year, a new calendar year, Yah. So much has happened in this past year, Yah, and as we approach closer to your prophecies being fulfilled, we don't know what's ahead of us, but we're thankful for all the little things that you allowed us to have, Yah. We're thankful for your mercy. We're thankful for the spirit of understanding that you allowed us to have, giving us revelation of certain things that we didn't understand before. Yah, we're thankful for the people that you're putting together, Yah, for gathering your sheep, Yahweh, for putting your workers forth, Yah, and giving them a purpose, Yah, and giving them direction and lighting up their path, Yah. We're thankful. Yah, we humbly come before you as we observe this new month. Not only this new month, but this Rosh Shanah, this head of the year, Yah. And we ask that there be any error in our calculations, Yah, that you open up our eyes, Yah. Before we do this not for knowledge's sake, Yah, we do this for obedience sake, Yah. Amen. So, Yah, we ask that you accept our offering, Yah. We offer ourselves, Yah, for you are a living Elohim. Yeah. So you ask for a living offering, Yah. So we offer ourselves this year, Yah, to be your servants, Yahweh, to lead your people, Yah, to repent from sin, to be the examples, Yah. And we accept the chastening that you put forth in our life, Yah. And we accept the challenge that you have given us, Yah. And we're thankful to be part of this prophecy, Yah. And we're thankful for being this time, Yah. For we know great things are ahead as well as great tribulations, Yah. So we ask that you give us the strength, Yah. I ask that you give us the family and give us the covering, Yah, and allow us to be covered under the blood of Yeshua, Yah, as we take this dangerous journey forward as a family, as a small family, Yah. Yah, all these things we ask and pray also for forgiveness and mercy for our brothers that are under a spell, Yah, the spell of these times, Yah. We ask that you open up their eyes, all your servants that you have called, Yah. We ask for a spirit of mercy for those that are suffering in pain, for our brother Yekezkiel who's going through the suffering of affliction, Yah. We ask that you give him the strength to bear it, Yah. We don't ask that you take these things away, for we know, we trust you with what you do, but we ask that you give us the strength to bear and give us the strength to overcome, Yah, so that we can fulfill those things that you set for us, Yah. For we know not what's good for us, and we know that you don't do things for no reason. But we ask for that mercy, Yah, if there be any righteousness found in us through your Son. Yeah, all these things we thank and pray through your holy, humble anointed Son, Yeshua HaMashiach, which all praise, majesty, might, and dominion resides here and forevermore through you, your majesty. In the name of Yeshua HaMashiach, we thank and pray. Amen. 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 All right, Shalom. My name is Yadon Yashra'al, my brother Wesley Yashra'al. Shalom. And today is our Rosh Hashanah, Hebrew New Year. So I know some viewers that are a little new to this are wondering, like, wait a minute, how are you having New Year? Well, we don't use the calendar that the world uses. We know the world starts their calendar in January 1st. And we know the new year does not start on January 1st. And we know many of our brothers are using the same calendar the Jewish people use, which is a lunar calendar. So that causes a lot. Even within that, you got people using full moon, sliver moon, dark moon, and there are 13 moons, 12 moons, and it's all over the place. Well, we use an ancient calendar system. We use the Enochian calendar or the Zadokian calendar, which is based on the sun. It's based on the sun, the moon, and the stars as all witnesses, giving you a perfect system, the system that the ancients used. And this is the only calendar where the person who's presenting the calendar is actually claiming that they got this from heaven, that they got this system from the Most High. Everybody else, Gregorian calendar came from Pope Gregory. The lunar calendar is named after a pagan god Luna. The solar calendar off a pagan god Solar. You know, the Babylonian calendar, everything is man-made. This is the one that at least it's a claim. So we use that. So before we get into that, I'll do a real quick breakdown of a few things, important things to understand about our new year. For one thing you want to notice how they just had daylight savings time. They just moved the clocks forward. How coincidental that they're putting the day longer than the night, which is spring, because spring starts with this new year. New year starts spring. They pushed it forward the week that New Year starts. Why are they doing it? Why are they doing it right around the time that New Year starts? Because they know when the New Year starts. The New Year starts when you have the day longer than the night. The first day that the day becomes longer than the night. So what the Enoch calendar does, it has an equilux, which is 12 hours day and 12 hours night. That is the last day of winter. The next day, the day springs forward. In other words, the day is a little bit longer than the night. That's why it's called spring. That is the new year. That is the first day of the year, the first day of the season. And when you go all the way 6 months later, when you have the summer ending and the days are getting shorter, and now the night for the first day is now longer than the day, that's why you have fall. So it's very simple. And within even the Enoch calendar, you have some people that want to use the equinox instead of the equilux. When you have equal day and equal night, that's called the equilux. When you have a shadow across the equator of the earth, that's the equinox. Equilux means equal light. Equinox means equal night. So one means equal light. The other one means equal night. Both of them are close to almost equals day and equal night. But you ask yourself, well, why would Yahshua say we're children of the day? We're not children of the night. So we use an equal lux, equal light, equal day, equal night. So those are just a few things to consider. Also, you wonder, well, why does the new year start Tuesday night? We know the week starts Saturday night, which would be, Babylon Sunday, first day of the week. Why would it start then? Well, you have to ask yourself, go back to Genesis chapter 1. The moon, the sun, the stars, all of those things were created on the fourth day of the week. So the week started, but the timekeeping didn't start. Because it says that I gave you the sun, the moon, and the stars for your days, your nights, your seasons, your years. So that's when the calendar started, on the fourth day. So that's why Tuesday night begins your fourth day. That's why New Year will always be on the fourth day of the year. And with the equal calendar, which is 364 days, 12 months, 7-day weeks, your New Year, everything is always going to fall on the same weekly day of the week. So those are just a few things to consider. Now we have classes on that. I'm not going to go too much into it because we'll be here all night. But we are going to get a little bit into the calendar. We're going to look at a different witness. Let's go to Jubilees chapter 6. Yobelum chapter 6. Jubilees is one of the Sefer writings. These are the ancient writings that was used to compile the Bible. The Bible took from a lot of these different things. Jubilees is not in the King James. It's one of those books that they decided to not allow because it gives way more information.
Jubilees chapter 6 and verse 29. And they placed them on the heavenly tablets. Each had 13 weeks, from one to another passed their memorial, from the first to the second, and from the second to the third, and from the third to the fourth. And all the days of the commandment will be 52 weeks of days, and these will make the entire year complete.
All right, so what he's doing is he's describing the heavenly tablets. The heavenly tablets is the sky. And the heavenly tablets, the sky has the stars, the moon, the sun, all that, and it's giving the days of the year. There's 13 weeks. Each had each had 13 weeks, and it's 52 weeks of days. So a week is 7 days, 52 weeks of days. So it's 52 weeks in a year. If you take 52 times 7, you get 364. That's how many days you have in a year. Go ahead.
Thus it is engraven and ordained on the heavenly tablets. And there is no neglecting this commandment for a single year or from year to year.
All right, so the year never changes. It's not like how they have in America. Well, you got 365, then 1 year, every 4 years, you get 366. Nah, that don't sound like Yah. Go ahead.
And command you the children of Yashra'al that they observe the years according to the reckoning, 364 days, and these will constitute a complete year, and they will not disturb its time from its days and from its feasts, for everything will fall out in them according to their testimony, and they will not leave out any day nor disturb any feast.
All right, so this is the command to us, to our people, Hebrews, that we use this calendar. We don't care what man uses. He said, this is what you will do. Command them because you do something different than what they do. They keep holidays for pagans. We keep Moadim, set apart days, or holy days for a lack of a better word. So all these are based on the dates that Yah told us to do. So we need to use the heavenly system of doing things. Go ahead.
But if they do neglect and do not observe them according to his commandment, then they will disturb all their seasons, and the years will be dislodged from this order. And they will disturb the seasons, and the years will be dislodged, and they will neglect their ordinances.
So if you decide to change this, you decide to use a different system, it's going to mess up your feast days. It's going to mess up your Shabbat. It's going to mess up your new months. It's going to mess up all these different things. All these things were put in place so that you know what time it is, so that when the feast comes, you can show up. So, for example, if you decide you want to use the moon, even though the ancient tablets tell you you can't use the moon to calculate your month. Anybody who's using a moon to calculate their months, it's very simple. The lunar cycle is 29.5 day average. So if you multiply that times 12, you're going to get 354 days with 12 moons. I don't care if you started with a full moon, a sliver moon, dark moon, whatever. You're going to get only 354 days in your year. That's too short. How are you going to have a whole year with 354 days? You're not getting through all the seasons. And you say, well, I'm going to do like what the Gentiles do, the Jewish people. They threw an extra moon in there every so often. Say, well, we're going to do Adar 2 this year. Then you got 380 something days. Your year way too long. How you going to keep holy days with stuff like that? How you going to show up when y'all say show up
when even the angels show up, like in Job chapter 1 and chapter 2, when the sons of man have to appear before Yah, even the angels showed, even Satan showed up. How we gonna do that if your calendar is all over the place? Yah's about order and he's about obedience. Go ahead.
And all the children of Yashra'al will forget and will not find the paths of the years, and will forget the new moons and seasons and Shabbats, and they will go wrong as to all the orders of the years.
The new months. What they did is they threw moon in there when they translated to English. The word Kodesh does not mean moon. Yeriach is moon.
Teach, bro.
Yerach is the root word of Yeriach. That is a lunation. That is an actual cycle of the moon. There's a word for that in Hebrew. Go ahead.
For I know, and from henceforth will I declare unto you, and it is not of my own devising, for the book lies written before me, and on the heavenly tablets the division of days is ordained, lest they forget the feast of the covenant, and walk according to the feast of the Gentiles after their error and after their ignorance.
The Gentiles go after their own ignorance, after their own pagan gods. They do things based upon, the moon looks beautiful today. Let's make a feast. Let's worship this God. Let's do this. Let's do that. You're set apart. You don't follow what they do. Go ahead.
For there will be those who will assuredly make observations of the moon, how it disturbs the seasons and comes in from year to year 10 days too soon.
How did they know this? Way back in the ancient time. If you don't believe me, go Google it. You can look up the lunar cycle or track the moon yourself. Count one full moon to the next, or one dark moon to the next, or one sliver to the next. When you look at the lunar cycle, it's going to always come 10 days too short. 354 days. So it's letting you know some people are going to look at the moon and how beautiful and big it is and bright, and how it can change to a blood red moon, a blue moon, a yellow moon, a super moon, and say this must be the great sign, just like the equinox. People say, look, because there's a shadow across the earth, surely this means this is the last day or the sign that they're talking about. No, it just looks nice. He gave you the instruction of what the sign is. Equal day, equal night. Not, well, kind of like that. And this great event happens that day. It must be that. No.
For this reason, the years will come upon them when they will disturb the order and make an abominable day, the day of testimony, and an unclean day a feast day. And they will confound all the days, the holy with the unclean, and the unclean day with the holy. For they will go wrong as to the months, and the Shabbats, and feasts, and jubilees.
So this is important that you figure this out. Because if you're doing it wrong, you're messing up all these things. You're messing up your new months. The whole purpose of your new month is so that you can know what month you're in for your holy days. Your Shabbats, your feast days, and your jubilees. It all gets messed up if your calendar is messed up. Now, y'all understands we came out of slavery, man. We barely, knew we was Israel. So he understands that. But once your eyes are opening and you have access, our forefathers didn't have access to these books. These books was hidden, locked away, in a language we couldn't even read. These things are now available, the ancient versions of them, the original versions that they're piecing together. You can go online and look at these things. So once this is here, we can't keep allowing white man to determine what we think is valid and what's not valid. Because white man said, if it ain't in the King James, it ain't official. Who told you that? How did they get, there wasn't no ancient King James. How did the King James get put together? Where did they get that information? There was a commission, and they observed, they looked at all these things. They decided, nah, we're not going to use this. We're not going to use that. Because this stuff is blowing up that lunar doctrine. It's blowing up that pagan worship. All these books, Enoch, Jubilees, all that is given the history, the Apocrypha, all that, and it's blowing up the pagan worship. So they say, you don't need that. This is how you keep a slave. This is enough to keep a slave. Right here. So now I was talking about how these things are written in the heavenly tablets. That's the sky. The moon gives a certain witness. The sun gives a certain witness, and the stars give a certain witness. A certain constellation comes out every month and heads the sky, letting you know that it's the month, and it matches perfectly with the Enoch calendar. All right, let's move on. Let's go to Galatians chapter 4. So again, I'm not going to go too deep into the calendar. We got plenty of classes on that. But I just wanted to get into that and just show something a little different. I know we don't usually go to Enoch or in the Torah, but you could look in Jubilees. Even Jubilees matches it. You know, it's just, you know, we're so indoctrinated. You know, we leave what we call the church just to jump back in another church with the same doctrine, with the same mind frame, but just, you know, a little bit more advanced. And then we turn our nose up at the people that are doing the same thing we're doing. They're just not doing it as advanced as we are.
Teach, brother.
It's the same mentality.
So this is really the atmosphere that existed 2,000 years ago, the advent or the appearance of the Messiah on the prophetic scene. You know what I mean? When he manifests to his people Israel. Like you were saying, it's like, it's nothing different. There's no new thing under the sun, because even today, just like then, we wanted to be like the nations. We wanted to worship the sun, the moon, the star. These things are not new. Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, they just existed under different names, so to speak, but were observed by all the nations worship these deities, these powers. So we were prevented from worshiping that, being covenant to the Father. We were his people. But again, it's just so beautiful what you're saying, Yadon, in the context. You know, we found out maybe 20 years ago, 30 years ago, that we was the house of Israel. We adopted the law, and we looked at the Edomite or the Jewish man, how he all these years observed, and we copied his observing. We so busy trying to be Jewish,
right,
and switch from Christianity. Well, I'm a Jew, you know, I got ZZs. I you know, understand the covenant of this and that, you know, it was given to, you know, Torah to our father, you know, and you ain't nothing but a copy of a Jewish,
right,
and they weren't given the Ruach HaKodesh. They don't have the spirit,
right. How you gonna trust them?
Right, they're demons. So I mean, the whole point, brothers, this is a good point you made, and I feel it so strong, you know, having grown up early in this way of life and tried to be Hebraic, tried to learn the law, tried to keep the, you understand? Just only to realize that it's all an illusion, and that the reality was Mashiach and the Ruach HaKodesh and the prophets, and his spirit is prophecy.
Amen.
And you go in full circle, but it just come back to the book. The word is the truth. And it's so beautiful that everybody can read the word. When I'm sharing out there to the audience that the whole world has been deceived by Satan. Satan has tricked everybody to look at this word in a wrong way. The word is perfect, but the way, it's just like the Bible talk about the new moon. I'm looking here in 1 Samuel chapter 20. Remember when it talked about David and Jonathan, and that was month. The new month is here.
Right.
That wasn't
That's
moon.
why they were having a feast.
But it didn't say new moon, right?
No, the word was Kodesh.
See what I'm saying?
Right. The Hebrew word literally means new month, but they put new moon in there, so in English, so that you would tie a month starting with the moon, because that's what they were doing at the time of Diana, you know, with Saul and all those people. They was doing new moon. Jewish people was doing new moon. Even when you look in Flavius Josephus tracks that they were calculating the feast based upon the moon, literally.
Who were
the Jewish people?
Or what were they called back then? The Sadducees.
Right. Right, which may, if you're a king.
Did he come from Babylon? Remember, we had that's where we got the Talmud and different things, and where we kind of entered into, you know, Jewish mysticism.
Edomites. We had an Edomite king, And we know that when Jerusalem was taken over, they were making anybody priests. So why would it just stop when Esau get in charge? All of a sudden, the Syrians came in and made anybody priests. Then Esau took over, and Esau was going to say, nah, we're going to start putting Hebrews back being priests because we want to keep the law. Nah.
So let me ask you this. So when Mashiach was on the scene, one of the things why I was reticent in looking at the Enochian order of things, because I don't know if he spoke, or can you find where he spoke against the order? Because to my knowledge, or if you can speak to this, you're more of a scholar, in script. But again, Messiah, he spoke against a lot of the. I guess he did speak against.
He also said, "Are there not 12 hours in a day?"
I remember you saying that.
So, there's 12 hours in a day. Not all the time. There's only 12 hours in a day.
Twice.
Yesterday, it was 12 hours in a day. It was actually 12 hours day, and we had 12 hours night. So we had the 12 hours day, this daytime period. Today we had 12 hours a day. Yesterday, the beginning of yesterday, we had 12 hours a night. So 12. So when he's talking in parables, he's like, "Is there not 12 hours in a day?" We know that doesn't happen all the time, and we know a full day is not 12 hours. So even then, he was talking in code.
But he's
and
talking
why?
about how the Father would divide night and day, basically.
Right, and then why also did he keep a different Passover than the Jewish people? He was on a different calendar. And I'll tell you this, I'm going to lean on Yahshua's calendar. I'm going to lean on the day he did it rather than the day the people who killed him did it.
Amen. So you do acknowledge that they were observing the observance of the moon in the season that he walked the earth?
Yeah, they were. They had to have been.
So
I know at the time of Flavius Josephus, they were. It was tracked.
that was in Roman times. So you believe that we were observing the true calendar up into the Babylonian captivity when
Likely. When we went into captivity, that's when we start getting all those new names of the months.
Not the Torah, but the
We getting all those
Talmud.
Yeah, Adar and Bull and Tammuz and all these
Monday,
names.
Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah, we got that. We start getting all these new syllables that we never used before. Now we getting Eli and Eloi and all these things when it would have been just Al or Allah.
Another thing we gotta keep in mind is that we're in the daughter of Babylon, the second Egypt. And I say that in the context that there's no new system. We kind of look at it because we become Israelites. That we because basically all we tapping into is you either a Christian, Jew, or Muslim. Because when we died as a nation, these are the three major Abrahamic belief systems that. And when you look at, for example, Revelations 12, it describes the nation of Israel having the star. Remember, the Jews have one star, but we had 12 stars. And she was standing on the moon, and her glory or her body was the sun. So you see right there in the fullness of Israel, this woman representing Yah's wife, our nation that he was married to. We just wasn't the moon. You get what I'm saying? We just wasn't the sun. So how can you choose one of the three?
Just like our calendar. It uses everything.
You can't choose one.
It uses the sun, it uses the stars, and it uses the moon. All of that comes together. The moon brings in the seasons. When we go out tonight, we go look at the moon. We're going to see the moon, the phase that the moon is in today. It's going to be in that same phase, the beginning of summer. It's going to be in that same phase, the beginning of fall. And it's going to be in that same phase, the beginning of winter. Those are the witnesses. That's the witness that your new season came in.
Okay.
If we understood the constellation, the great constellation that's out right now should be the Lamb.
So basically, you saying that the slither came out last night or tonight?
I have to look. No, the moon again.
Okay, we can't.
The moon is going to have a specific phase every year. on the beginning of every season.
Okay.
So for example, if last year, I don't remember what it was, it might have been like a sliver too. The beginning of the year, just say it was a dark moon. If the beginning of the year was a dark moon, the beginning of every season in the year is going to be a dark moon.
Okay.
Every season. The moon phase on that month that begins the season is going to be the exact
You're
same.
saying it's broken up in an order.
It's another witness. It's a witness that the season has come in. And it reminds you, and from what I understand, that tells you what year you're in the 7-year cycle of Hebrew years. So it's like a clock. It moves.
But see, that's another
Full,
thing.
sliver, dark, half full. So it's like a clock moving, letting you know first year, second year, third year, and every season it's reminding you what year you're in every season.
Yeah.
Now the thing is, I don't have enough information to look at that moon phase and tell you that means it's the 7th year. That means it's the first year. All I know is it keeps changing, but I don't have any documentation to tell me what's what. So we'll observe the moon. We'll look at that. We'll also look at the constellation, and we'll see that all that follows that pattern. The sun gives you a certain amount, and the stars come out. A certain constellation every month, and it's giving you witness, because Yah don't never just tell you one thing one time. He gives you witnesses so that you can't say, well, I didn't know. Let's go to Galatians chapter 4. And Janiah Sims made a comment that names of all gods each day of the week in these 12 months, pagan gods. Interesting, because we're going to kind of deal with that in Galatians chapter 4.
Galatians chapter 4 and verse 1.
Hold on a second, brother. Okay.
Now I say that the heir, as long as he is a child, differs nothing from a servant, though he be owner of all, but is under tutors and governors unto the time appointed of the Father. Even so we, when we were children, were in bondage under the elements of the world. But when the fullness of the time was come, Yahweh sent forth his Son, made of a woman, made under the law, to redeem them that were under the law, that we might receive the adoption of sons. And because you are sons, Yahweh has sent forth the Spirit of his Son into your hearts, crying, Abba, Father.
All right, so what people will do with this is they'll take this and they'll try to make it mean some kind of way that you don't have to keep the law anymore because you're under Yahshua. No, you don't have to keep the beggarly elements of the law, the animal sacrifices, the things that, just stay in your tent. All the rigid things that was to prevent you from doing something. It doesn't mean that you don't keep the law. You keep the law. But what you're supposed to have with Yahshua is you're supposed to have an understanding of why you're keeping a specific law and get straight to that. Sometimes you can't go straight to it. Sometimes there is no way. You don't murder. Don't murder. Go ahead.
If he sent his Spirit into the Son, if he sent the Spirit of the Son into the hearts, would that not cause you to walk in the law, like walk by the law in a way?
Exactly, because, for example, honoring the Sabbath day, you don't have to sit here and say, "Oh well, I can't do anything because it's the Sabbath day." But if the Spirit is in you, and you say, okay, I want to dedicate this day to the Father because he said this is the sign, I'm going to dedicate that day to him. And if I see one of his children suffering and needs me on that day, and I can't help them any other day, the Most High put me in that situation and put that person in that situation, and I have to do a good deed. If I had the Spirit in me, I would understand that the Sabbath is saying, no, don't break the Sabbath for your pleasure on a regular time. Not in this situation. The man bleeding to death. Help him. Give him some first aid. Don't talk about, I can't get unclean. It's just set apart. I can't get no blood on me. Nah, you would understand that because the Spirit is in you. But you can't get to that without first understanding, hey, listen, blood is unclean. Rest on the Sabbath. If you a doctor, work every other day. Don't work that day. But if you a doctor, you in the Shabbat and somebody pass out, like when we were, remember, Elder, we was at the 12 convention and the guy went in diabetic shock. Yeah. Guess what? If it was the Sabbath, you just gonna leave him there? Nah, ain't no work. Can't work. Nah, help the man. It's a special circumstance. The law wasn't made for you not to do the right thing to do. It was to make you not do the wrong thing. But if your mind is only on a checklist of, okay, did I do this? Yes or no? Then you're going to be stuck at that. And Yeshua came into the world to say, listen, y'all killing yourselves in this. Because you're not trying to do the right thing. You're just trying to appear righteous by saying, oh, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. All right, like the elders say, I got my seats on. Well, was your mind on the commandments? Was it on your mind? Nah, these seats were. Go ahead.
Wherefore you are no more a servant, but a son, and if a son, then an heir of Yahweh through Mashiach. Howbeit then, when you knew not Yahweh, you did service unto them which by nature are no mighty ones. But now, after that you have known Elohim, or rather are known of Elohim, how turn you again to the weak and beggarly elements whereunto you desire again to be in bondage? You observe days and months and times and years.
Go to the elements. What's that strong word for elements? Okay, it's stoichion, which is something orderly in arrangement. Serial, basal, fundamental, initial, constituent, literal, proposition, figurative, element, principle, rudiment. All right. Verse 10.
You observe days and months and times and years.
Wait a minute. So does that mean we're not supposed to keep the new month? We're not supposed to keep the new year? We're not supposed to keep the Shabbat? We're not supposed to keep the holy days? Is that what that means? That Yahshua died so that we don't honor the Father and these commandments that he gave us?
No.
But that's what people try to do. But who is he talking to? Anytime you're going to read one of these writings from Paul, you want to say, who is he talking to? When was he talking? If you go back to the time of these Galatians, what they were doing, it just told you. Verse 8, howbeit then, when you knew not Elohim, you did service unto them which by nature are not gods. You're doing service to idols. If you go back to the time of the Romans and the Galatians and the Corinthians and all, man, they had a so-called God for every single day of the week. And when the day passed, you had to worship this God. The next day passed, you worship this God. And they had a wheel like this with all these little weird symbols and some God's name on it, from like the name of a star or something like that. So it's saying, you telling me you done came in the word to get this understanding and you're still using this? You're still keeping these pagan rituals? No different than you still keeping the solstice? You still keeping Christmas, Saturnalia, and all these things? But you call yourself a so-called Christian? No different. They were doing it back then. Same thing with us now. Go ahead.
I am afraid of you, lest I have bestowed upon you labor in vain. Brethren, I beseech you, be as I am, for I am as you are. You have not injured me at all. You know how through infirmity of the flesh I preached good news unto you at the first. And my temptation which was in my flesh you despised not, nor rejected, but received me as an angel of Elohim, even as Mashiach Yeshua.
What temptation?
sure.
See, that's kind of where my theory. What's all this temptation he talking about? But anyways, go ahead. When we were talking about that thorn in my side.
Yeah, I remember.
Go ahead.
Where is then the blessedness you spake of? For I bear you record that if it had been possible, you would have plucked out your own eyes and have given them to me. I am therefore become your enemy because I tell you. Am I therefore become your enemy because I tell you the truth?
Yes. If they're not dealing in the spirit of truth, if they're not dealing with the Holy Spirit, yeah, you're going to be an enemy if you're telling somebody the truth. People don't want to hear the truth. They want to hear what makes them feel comfortable in doing what they're already doing. Go ahead.
They zealously affect you, but not well. Yea, they would exclude you that you might affect them. But it is good to be zealously affected always in a good thing, and not only when I am present with you. My little children, of whom I travail in birth again unto Mashiach, be formed in you. I desire to be present with you now, and to change my voice, for I stand in doubt of you. Tell me, you that desire to be under the law, do you not hear the law? For it is written that Abraham had 2 sons, the one by a bondmaid, the other by a free woman. But he who was of the bondwoman was born after the flesh, but he of the free woman was by promise.
All right, so when he's talking about verse 21, tell me, you that desire to be under the law, do you not hear the law? So what people are taking this as, oh, that means you don't have to keep the law. Which laws? So you just decide what laws you're going to keep and not keep? That don't make no sense. When they're talking about being under the law, you that want to be a believer in a Mashiach, but you still want to do animal sacrifices. That's what that's talking about. Nothing else would make sense. Why else would he say, oh, well, do you hear the law? Go ahead.
Question. Right there in verse 21, when he says hear, that implies to also do it, correct? Not just, okay. Verse 22. All right, verse 24. Which things are an allegory, for these are the 2 covenants. The one from the Mount Sinai, which genders to bondage, which is Agar. For this Agar is Mount Sinai in Arabia.
So Mount Sinai is in Arabia. So why do they have Mount Sinai in Egypt now? Somebody lying. Go ahead.
And answers to Jerusalem, which now is, and is in bondage with her children. But Jerusalem, which is above, is free, which is the mother of us all. Jerusalem
is the body, is the assembly. That's why your mother is the church, the assembly. So this Agar, which is in bondage, it means you're in bondage to the old letter of the law saying that when you do something wrong, you got to kill an animal. You do not have liberty in the law to do to use wisdom and understanding to apply it in righteousness. No, you're constrained to dot and tittle and everything of that law that says you can't do this, you can't do that. Well, why is it there? Why are you not to touch blood? Because it's unclean. But if somebody's bleeding to death and you got to put pressure on the wound, you're going to have to touch the blood. How could you not understand it? Nah, y'all want him to die because he wouldn't be bleeding then. Nah, y'all want him to die. He would have left him alone. Nobody would have been there. That's why, ain't no coincidence that Yahshua did that story with the Good Samaritan. And how the priest walked by. The Levite walked by. I can't get no blood on me. I'm that's against the law. I'd be unclean. But you're supposed to be the example. But this Samaritan who don't keep the law understood the spirit of the law that, listen, help somebody. I would want somebody to help me. Or if that was my son or my brother or my sister there, I would want somebody to help them.
For it is written, rejoice, you barren that bears not. Break forth and cry, you that travail not. For the desolate has many more children than she which has a husband.
So these Gentiles, these people that are not married unto Yah, who are keeping the law without being bloodline, without getting all this stuff, or doing it just off of spirit, they producing more fruit. They learning, they growing, they in charge, they people in charge. They running stuff, but yet they worshiping the God of slaves. Go ahead.
Now we, brethren, as Yishak was, are the children of promise. But as then he that was born after the flesh persecuted him that was born after the spirit, even so it is now.
He that's born after the flesh persecutes him that was born after the spirit. Persecuting. That person that's born after the flesh constantly trying to persecute somebody. Like his flesh is perfect. Because he's got a problem with the spirit. He or she don't understand that. They just know I gotta persecute. I gotta persecute. I gotta persecute. Go ahead.
Nevertheless, what says the scripture? Cast out the bondwoman and her son, for the son of the bondwoman shall not be heir with the son of the free woman. So then, brethren, we are not children of the bondwoman, but of the free.
We are free. We have liberty. We have liberty to learn this law, to understand this law, to emulate Yahshua and apply this law in righteousness. And can't nobody say nothing to us about it. But Yah will not be mocked. You're not going to sit here and act like, oh, you ain't got to do this, you ain't got to do that, because, you know, you're using your liberty and, you know, you really doing it for a good cause. But you really just don't want to be disciplined. Y'all know the difference? Let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 13. So what I didn't say was the title of the study is the Year of the Awakening. I feel like we're in the year of the awakening, where a lot of us are becoming awake. You know, one of those key words that people using is woke. I'm woke. Stay woke. Now, just because you are awake, don't mean that you understand everything. Don't mean that you're doing things properly. But at least you're awake and you're conscious something's wrong or something's right. And I feel like this is the year that we're in. We're in this year of awakening where people are waking up. The general public is waking up and saying something ain't right here. So when they wake up, they're going to need people to point them in the right direction. Say, hey, look, check this out. Check that out.
1 Corinthians chapter 13 and verse 1. Though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels and have not love, I am become as sounding brass or a tinkling cymbal. And though I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith so that I could remove mountains and have not love, I am nothing.
So I have all this understanding. I can do all these things. I got all these gifts, but I don't know how to apply the law. Because the law is love. Love your neighbor like yourself. In other words, treat them the right way. And the law shows you how to treat people and treat situations the right way. That's what the whole law is framed about. That is love. Go ahead.
And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and though I give my body to be burned, and have not love, it profits me nothing. Love suffers long and is kind. Love envies not. Love vaunts not itself. Love is not puffed up. Love does not behave itself unseemly, seeks not her own, is not easily provoked, thinks no evil, rejoices not in iniquity, but rejoices in the truth, bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never fails, but whether there be prophecies, they shall fail. Whether there be tongues, they shall cease. Whether there be knowledge, it shall vanish away.
All right, so I had a piece of this unlocked. So we always apply that to our physical love, how we love somebody. But what this is describing here is it's describing the love of this law. Look at it as the law. Love suffers long. The law suffers long. The law is kind. The law envies not. The law does not vaunt itself. The law is not puffed up. The law does not behave unseemly. The law does not seek its own. The law is not easily provoked. The law does not think evil. The law does not rejoice in iniquity. The law rejoices in the truth. The law bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things. We are trying to learn how to operate in that love because it deals with every situation, and no matter what happens to it, it is still operating in love, operating in the proper fashion. In verse 9.
For we know in part and we prophesy in part.
So we know part of the proper application of this law. And we can prophesy in the future of how things are going to happen in part regarding this law. But go ahead.
But when that which is perfect is come, then that which is in part shall be done away.
So when Yahshua returns, the word, the law, the love himself, then all these things that we didn't understand will be in the past, because we won't even think like that, because we'll know for sure. We won't have a shadow. We'll have the real thing. Go ahead.
When I was a child, I spake as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. For now we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then I shall know, even as also I am known.
So we only scratching the surface on love. We only able to apply what makes sense to us. But as we come closer to the real love, Hamashiach, and then when Yah comes, then we'll truly understand love, because we'll have that whole entity with us. Go ahead.
And now abides faith, hope, love, these three, but the greatest of these is love.
All right, because that love is an action. Faith is a belief in something. Hope is a belief in something, but love is the action. And you show your faith and your hope by using that love, which is this law. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 23, but we just want to read 1 through 7. And we have one of the elders says Happy Passover. And I understand that it's considered, the new year is considered, especially in a lot of the African countries, they consider that Passover, because you're passing over from one year unto the next. So when people say Happy Passover for a new year, it's basically saying, hey, we're passing over into a new year.
All right. Jeremiah chapter 23 and verse 1. Woe be unto the pastors that destroy and scatter the sheep of my pasture, says Yahweh. Therefore, thus says Yahweh Elohim of Yashra'al against the pastors that feed my people, you have scattered my flock and driven them away, and have not visited them. Behold, I will visit upon you the evil of your doings, says Yahweh. And I will gather the remnant of my flock out of all countries where I have driven them, and I will bring them again to their folds, and they shall be fruitful and increase.
I will gather the remnant of my flock. So again, he's not gathering everybody. He's gathering a remnant. And it says, out of all the countries where I have driven them. Didn't say just America. Go ahead.
And I will set up shepherds over them which shall feed them, and they shall fear me. They shall fear no more, nor be dismayed. Neither shall they be lacking, says Yahweh. Behold, the days come, says Yahweh, that I will raise unto David a righteous branch, and a king shall reign and prosper, and shall execute judgment and injustice in the earth. In his days Yehudah shall be saved, and Yashra'al shall dwell safely. And this is his name whereby he shall be called, Yahweh our righteousness.
And what is Yahweh's righteousness?
The law.
The word, right, the law. Go ahead.
Therefore, behold, the days come, says Yahweh, that they shall no more say Yahweh lives, which brought up the children of Yashra'al out of the land of Mitzrayim, Egypt. But Yahweh lives, which brought up and which led the seed of the house of Yashra'al out of the north country, and from all countries where I have driven them. And they shall dwell in their own land.
All right, so I actually wanted to go through verse 8, so I'm glad we did. But we are now entering the time where all we know Yah is Yah that, freed us out of Egypt and, took us from out of bondage and brought us into Israel. But we'll know Yah is Yah that freed us from this captivity, like the elder said earlier, the second Egypt. This Egypt that we came to by ships. And even in that prophecy, I will send you into Egypt again by ships. We didn't go to Egypt by ships the first time. We walked in there. So Yah has these infallible prophecies. But even in Jeremiah, which is well before our time, before the Mashiach, before all this, he's talking about how we are going to know Yah by how our children may know Yah. We teaching Passover, we about to have Pesach in 14 days. And we talking about how he did this and he did that for us. But there's going to be a time, and it could be very, very soon, that we will know him as, wow, no, this is Yahweh. See, this is why they asked him, who you said your God. Asked Moses, who is your God? What am I going to tell him? What am I going to tell them when you told me that I say let my people go? Because they didn't know Yah as Yah that freed them and parted the Red Sea. They didn't know him by that. So this is why they're asking questions. So this is what we're looking forward to. All right, let's go to Psalm 68 for the conclusion. All right.
Psalms, Tehillim, chapter 68, and verse 1. Let Elohim arise, let his enemies be scattered. Let them also that hate him flee before him. As smoke is driven away, so drive them away. As wax melts before the fire, so let the wicked perish at the presence of Elohim. But let the righteous be glad. Let them rejoice before Elohim. Yea, let them exceedingly rejoice. Sing unto Elohim, sing praises to his name. Extol him that rides upon the heavens by his name. Yah, and rejoice before him.
So King David can say his name, and he's saying, sing praises to his name. Extol him that rides upon the heavens by his name, Yah. And in 1611, it had I-A-H. The newer King James has the J-A-H. And people act like you got to speak Hebrew to pronounce his name. You can say Yah. You can say Jeremiah Yah. You can say Nehemiah Yah and Hezekiah Yah. You can say Eli Yah. You can say all that. So people playing stupid like they don't know his name. Go ahead. Even when you say hallelujah, you don't say hallelujah.
Right.
they spell it hallelujah.
Right. It's spelled exactly like that, but everybody knows to say hallelujah.
That's deep, man.
Playing games. Kumbaya.
Verse 5. A father of the fatherless and a judge of the widows is Elohim in his holy habitation. Elohim sets the solitary in families. He brings out those which are bound with chains, but the rebellious dwell in a dry land. O Elohim, when you went forth before your people, when you did march through the wilderness, Selah, the earth shook, the heavens also...
You know what Selah means?
What's that?
Look it up in the Strong's and see what it means. It's a pause in music. It's just like music. So when it says Selah, it means pause. Or it can be as deemed also as he that has ears, let them hear.
Okay.
So it's not something necessarily that you would read. It just means pause.
Okay.
So it's at H5542. Suspension of music. That is pause. Selah. All right, go ahead.
The earth shook, the heavens also dropped at the presence of Elohim. Even Sinai itself was moved at the presence of Elohim, the Elohim of Yashra'al. Though Elohim did send a plentiful rain, whereby you did confirm your inheritance when it was weary. Your congregation has dwelt therein. You, O Elohim, has prepared of your goodness for the poor. Yahweh gave the word. Great was the company of those that published it. Kings of armies did flee apace, and she that tarried at home divided the spoil. Though you have lain among pots, yet shall you be as the wings of a dove covered with silver, and her feathers with yellow gold. When the Almighty scatters kings in it, it was white as snow in Salmon. The hill of Elohim is as the hill of Bashan, a high hill as the hill of Bashan. Why leap you, you high hills? This is the hill which Elohim desires to dwell in, yea, Yahweh will dwell in it forever. The chariots of Elohim are 20,000, even thousands of angels. Yahweh is among them, as in Sinai, in the holy place. You have ascended on high, you have led captivity captive, you have received gifts for men, yea, for the rebellious also, that Yah Elohim might dwell among them. Blessed be Yahweh, who daily loads us with benefits, even the all of our salvation. He that is our El is the El of salvation, and unto Yahweh my sovereign belongs the issues from death. But Elohim shall wound the head of his enemies, and the hairy scalp of such a one as goes on still in his trespasses.
Does yours have those little gray letters?
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
You mean,
where they added the words?
no. There's italics though.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yahweh said, I will bring again from Bashan, I will bring my people again from the depths of the sea.
And right there in verse 22 is the Adonai.
Okay. So instead of Yahweh.
Right, it would have been the Adonai. So they wrote that there for a reason.
That your foot may be dipped in the blood of your enemies, and the tongue of your dogs in the same. They have seen your goings, O Elohim, even the goings of my all, my king in the sanctuary. The singers went before, the players on instruments followed after. Among them were the damsels playing with timbrels. Bless you, Elohim, in the congregations, even Yahweh, from the fountains of Yashra'al. There is little Benjamin with their ruler, the princes of Yehuda and their council, and princes of Zebulun and the princes of Naphtali. Your Elohim has commanded your strength. Strengthen, O Elohim, that which you have wrought for us. Because of your temple at Jerusalem shall kings bring presents unto you. Rebuke the company of spearmen, the multitude of the bulls, with the calves of the people, till every one submit himself with pieces of silver. Scatter you the people that delight in war. Princes shall come out of Mizraim, Ethiopia shall soon stretch out her hands unto Elohim. Sing unto Elohim, you kingdoms of the earth. O sing praises unto Yahweh. To him that rides upon the heavens of heavens, which were of old, lo, he does send out his voice, and that a mighty voice.
So, again, you have heavens, means there's two, and then you have heavens of heavens. Go ahead.
Ascribe you strength unto Elohim. His excellency is over Yashra'al, and his strength is in the clouds. O Elohim, you are terrible out of your holy places. The all of Yashra'al is he that gives strength and power unto his people. Blessed be Elohim.
Blessed be Elohim. So this psalm is a beautiful psalm because it gives, sings extol unto the name Yah, but also just gives you a little glimpse of the kingdom that's ahead of us, that, when we won't know Yah as him who freed us from Egypt, but we'll know Yah that brought us back in our place. And all the nations of the world have to submit and have to come show Yah respect. The kings are going to show him respect, and they can only do that through his priests. They can't go directly to him. They're going to have to go through his priests, his people. The same way we had to go through Levites. So this is a beautiful thing. We coming into this new year. All year we've been, the previous year, we've been going into these prophecies of what's coming before us. So things are happening. Things are falling in place. Might want to start really taking this thing serious if you're not, because Yah's prophecies are going to be fulfilled. No man knows the day or the hour, but we can say we believe what's written, and we can pray for the understanding. So let us all be prepared, and let us all treat, every time we have the Babylon New Year, New Year resolution, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Well, what you going to do in Hebrew year? You only going to do that with a calendar year? And I'm not telling people not to acknowledge a calendar year. I mean, if it's 2019, it's 2019. It is what it is. I live here in Babylon. I mean, that's the year that they say. I'm not going to go, pop off champagne and celebrate, but I'm going to praise Yah that I made it from 2018 to 2019. But all your changes and all, everything that you need to focus on should be based on your Hebrew, your national calendar. What are you going to accomplish this year? What changes are you trying to make this year? And your focus should be spiritual. Spiritually, what are you trying to do? As well as the carnal things that you need to do in your life. So let's take that opportunity to do that, because let's not act like we got all the time in the world for this to happen, because we might not have all the time in the world. So that's all we're going to do today. Any last questions or comments before we close in prayer and we go into feast? All right. Let's go ahead and close with a prayer.
Elder, can you go ahead and close us out in prayer?
Heavenly Father, the power of our forefathers, the power of our father Abraham, the power of our father Isaac, and the power of our father Yaakov, the great power of our Savior and our Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel, the Mashiach, the Lamb of Yah that was sent for our redemption. Heavenly Father, we come before your throne of grace, your mercies, knowing that we are but sinners, we are but flesh, and we are trapped in this captivity. We cry out to you, Father, to deliver us. You know the hearts of all flesh, Father. You know those who turn to you with our hearts. The keep your covenant, to be your people, to call upon your name, to look up and to look and seek and search out of your word those things that is relative to our waking up, to our redemption. Well, again, there is no Savior outside of your word. Your word manifests in flesh, and by his covenant we are saved. This is the heavenly testimony first revealed to our father Moses and confirmed in Mashiach, the second Adam. Please, Holy Father, give us of your spirit, not to be worshiping the sun, Christianity, or the moon, Islam, or the star, Judaism, but that we might come together a great nation, as you have prophesied even in this city, and cause your trumpet to sound, which symbolizes your word piercing our hearts, that our ears might be open, that we might hear, that we might look up and there. Blessed be your name, your holy word, now into eternity. Unlock it for us, Father. Send forth your spirit that we might live. In Yahshua's name we ask these mercies. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Thank you, Father.
Hallelujah.